Okay, so go File, New, and it'll lead you to this world where we're going to make a package. This is a brush, just to not get too complex into things. Brushes come into additive and subtractive formats. You can think of a brush as this giant cube that when you hit add and then make sure that you're in unlit, you now have a quadrant. Okay, so that's an additive, and if you want to subtract it, you just move this brush over and you can subtract it out. Well, now it gets way more complex than that, but that is the 101 nuts and bolts of the Unreal Engine. And if you want to see the brushes, you can click here, and you can now see the brushes after the fact. So you can see the blue one right here is an additive brush, and this one is a subtractive brush. Now I would argue that this idea right here is kind of futile. Really, if you want such a form as the one I showed you, like this, it would have been much easier just to reshape the box to begin with. But we'll get into that. For right now, go back to pass, destroy all these by hitting delete, and move your cube back to the center. You can see it snaps. When you go back to unlit, everything is there. We're going to have to rebuild geometry. Okay? There we go. Let's make an additive form in the middle. And then let's go into Content Browser. So essentially we're going to make a material for this cube. So right click here in the center and say New Material. I want this first name, last name, and you have no space, so I use the underscore there. We'll call this starter material. I always use this starter underscore mat for my naming convention. Get a naming convention and stick to it. You can use mine if you want. It's really easy. I just use mat or static or something in an acronym form at the end of everything. So hit OK. It launches this. We're not going to concentrate on making too much here. We're only going to make a simple material. So let's look at the core of a material, and those are constants. These are textures without any texture. So essentially RGB values. And it works like this. R, if I put a 1 here, it's pure red. If I put a 0.1 here, it's a really dark red. Okay? And it goes all the way out to almost infinity here because you could put 0.01 and it gets a really, really dark red. And if I mix green with that, maybe 1 of green, you see it overpowers it. So any one value is really, really overpowering to the next. We'll go with this green. Click and drag this to diffuse, and you can see now I have a green ball. Ooh. Okay, essentially that's all we're going to be making. Again, I want you to explore more this week than make things. So let's apply changes and close this out. Okay, very important that you do this step now. Go to desktop and make yourself a folder here. So make a folder, first name, last name on your desktop. And you must do it through the Explorer window. Do not do it through Unreal. Unreal will crash. Okay, then we're going to right click on this and hit save. I'm going to choose desktop. I'm going to choose that folder. And the file name is going to be JSON_Welsh. There we go. We saved our first package. Okay, we can also save our first level, which is pretty sad looking. And why don't we add that new material to it? So click on the material, click on the surface, right click, and apply material. Ooh. Just so you have something to walk away with, because this is kind of boring. Let's go in here to packages and UTK content. Thinking of something cool we can put in here. Let's go characters. And let's put one of these iron guard guys in here. I need skeletal meshes. Okay, so that'll filter everything. And here below that is the iron guard. So click on him. Then right click or left click on the floor. Add skeletal mesh. And then you can click and drag him up. There we go. Essentially your first little guy in the Unreal Editor. Now there's a whole bunch of those guys floating around there. So if you can't find him, just search around a little bit. And make sure you have that toggled on. Okay, to look at him, let's make it a little bit more interesting. Let's go in here to the floor, add actor, and add player start. Okay, so you're going to spawn in front of him. And we also have to add a light. Right click, add point light. Okay. And for right now, I want you to build lighting and choose not to use Lightmass. We'll get into Lightmass in the next lesson. After you get done building, you can close that out and play in editor. Okay, look around. There's your friend. And you can walk through him because he doesn't contain anything. He's not animated, of course, because he's not a bot. He's just a skeletal mesh. And don't walk too far because you'll fall off the map. Like that. But essentially this is what I want. So I want you to save this out. Desktop. Just like that. And now if you look at your desktop on in that folder, you're going to find that there's a couple files. There's a UPK and a UDK. The UPK contains all your materials and everything else. Right now we only have one material in there, so you can see it's only 2 kilobytes. And then the level is kind of a reference point to all your packages. So you can think of it as, there's this world and it contains a lot of assets, and it's got to reference the pack files. Okay, and the pack files actually contain all the data, all the static meshes, and all the materials and textures. So let's say it is something like this, where I close out and close out completely. How about I just close out completely on the actual UDK, don't save anything, and relaunch it. How would I launch this? Well, you have to do it in 2 stages. So here, first view content browser. In content browser, at the very, very bottom, if I can get to it here, open external package. I go to the desktop and I choose this folder and I load my package. Once the package is loaded, you can now go File, Open, and open up the level. That's the stages you need to take every week. Okay. Alright, so I'm just not going to save. Know that you're going to be zipping this folder up a lot. So, right click, send to compressed zip folder. And you should always tag it with the unit number. If this is going to be unit 1, it's going to be unit 1. Alright, so please move on to the next video where I can explain more.